Hi everyone, Vicky here with a little extra video for you today using this fantastic set from Fawn. I am completely in love with axolotls. They're just too damn cute. So this is, as I say, thanks a lot. I'm also going to be using the Ocean Shelfie set just for a couple of extra little bits. I did prepare everything in advance. I was quite organised and I'm quite proud of myself for that, I'm not even going to lie. So these are the two stamp sets that I've used. And I did also do quite a bit of prep before this. So I already stamped out my images with my favourite things, Extreme Black, onto some Nina cardstock. I have another piece to do my blending on. I have my card blank at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I've also taken some craft card and I have cut a wavy border using a honeybee stamps edge line stamp, which I haven't dye either. Do apologise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my background. So I used Blueprint Sketch and Peacock for this. So I wanted to have, it's not even Peacock, I do apologise, it's Mermaid Lagoon. I think I'm officially cracking up. So I wanted to have it predominantly be the mermaid colour. Those of you who have watched my videos will know by now my ink blending is sadly usually slightly well, ironically, a bit of a sea-sickening event. Just when we're doing under the sea, you know, never mind. At least if you're under the sea, I suppose you don't get seasick because you don't feel the waves as much, but never mind. I don't need to go all the way to the bottom with this because I will be putting that craft cardstock over it. So I just need to make sure, obviously, there's enough. So I've done as much as I can, or as far up as I want to, rather, with my Mermaid Lagoon. And then I'm going in there with my Blueprint Sketch. And this is actually a bit more bumpy than it normally is. So I am really, really sorry. I have sped this up to try and make it shorter, so it hurts your eyes slightly less. But I think that is possibly why it looks quite so rocky as well. So I'm sorry. It was a toss-up between the two options. So I've cleared that, all my stuff away from that. And I've now sprayed that with a little bit of water just from my spray bottle. And I'm just going to quickly dab that off with some paper towel. And I'm going to give it another go just to give it a little bit of a textured effect, which you can see when I hold that up there. And then on top of that, I need to do some more blending. So I'm just going to take some Distress ink just to do the edge of this, just so it's not quite as plain. So I did go in with this Hickory Smoke, I believe it is. I don't actually have any browns in my Distress Oxides, so this was just to take a little bit of the shininess off the edge of it and knock it back slightly. I do have a list of Distress Oxides that I want, and there are some that would have been probably slightly better for this that are in there, but never mind. I've let the water dry slightly, so I'm now going to take my shimmery metallic watercolours, and I am going to do some spraying with this. So I'm just going to use a paintbrush and an acrylic block to flick this, splatter this, whatever word you want to use, onto my background. So I'm using the blue shimmer, and I do believe I also use a little bit of the silver just for a little bit of extra effect. I'm just cleaning off the brush a bit there. Yeah, this is kind of, it's like a silvery blue, this one. So it's just to give it a little bit of extra texture and a little bit of extra shimmer in the background, because I've got a little bit obsessed. I've rediscovered splattering. The whole reason I bought this palette was to do splattering. So I've rediscovered splattering, so I'm a little bit happy with it. And then I'm also going to take just this copper colour that's up in this top corner. I'm just going to take that one to do some flickering on the sand. This is going to be the sand at the bottom of my tank. And I think once I've done this, it does start to look a little bit more sandy and it kind of comes together a bit nicer. So I am really pleased I decided to do some splattering on this bit as well. So bear with me while I do that. And everything needs to get put to the side to dry. While that's drying, I'm going to do some colouring. So this is my pale pink blend. All my colouring is going to be with my Triblends, my Tide Tested and True. I do love my Triblends. I feel like I do need to actually replenish a few of them. I think this pale pink, some of the shades on this may need to either be topped up, or I might need to invest in a new Triblend of this colour. I know my Alpine Green is well and truly dead because I coloured a lot of trees at Christmas. So I really need some more of that one. So I'm just colouring with the 3 shades of this Triblend. So I'm putting the darkest shade where I feel like would be the shadow. Obviously he's quite a rounded face, so to the sides of that, and to the sides of his belly, and shading towards this centre with the lighter colours. I'm going to have one of my little axolotls in this pink and one in grey, because apparently those are colours that axolotls do actually come in. And I'm also quite proud that I have now learned to say axolotl. It took a while. I've called them a lot of very weird and wonderful things while I've been trying to learn. So these are the brown grey that I'm using for this one. Triblends come in brown greys or ice greys. The ice greys I tend to use more for metals and inanimate objects, robots, things like that. And then I tend to use the brown greys, they're just a bit warmer, so I tend to use those if I'm colouring little critters like this gorgeous little axolotl. I just love the very serene, happy face on them. If you haven't actually seen an axolotl, I really recommend you Google axolotl, because they are so cute. I have yet to find one that does not look incredibly happy, which in turn makes me really happy, because, you know, past year or so, it's been a little bit stressful for most people. Just look at pictures of axolotls. That and pandas on slides tend to be my go-to if I need a cheering up. Oh, and on a totally unrelated non-craft topic, if you Google penguin being tickled, the noise it makes is possibly the happiest sound I've ever heard in my life. Totally recommend it. If you're having a bad day, just Google it and watch it on repeat. It will make you feel happy. But I digress. So we're going back to colouring in now. So I'm going to colour all my different seaweeds. So I'm going to use a couple of different green blends, and I will obviously be showing you all the colours as I'm going with these. So all of these seaweeds I'm colouring in now are actually from that Ocean Shelfie. Hey, I said it. Ocean Shelfie set. I just wanted a couple of different kinds of seaweed for my scene for this one. So I'm colouring all of these in one set of shades, and then I will colour the other seaweed, which actually comes with the axolotl. I'm going to colour them in a different shade of green just to add a bit of variation. So there'll be different shaped seaweeds and slightly different coloured seaweed as well, just for a little bit of variation, as I say, so it doesn't get a bit too repetitive. This one is the light green that I'm using for the leafy seaweed, I'm going to call this. So we've got the stringy seaweed and the leafy seaweed. I could have kept flipping this, because obviously when I stamped it one way up and then just flipped my card in my stamping platform. So this is literally just the same thing but turned over on its head, just because it was the easiest way to get all the images stamped nice and quickly and easily. I could turn it over to colour it in, but my brain somehow managed to work out which way around I was colouring, so that was always good. And then the last thing I will have to colour once I finish colouring all these lovely little bits of seaweed in are the rocks. So as I say, I do use the brown greys when I do critters, such as the axolotl. So I use the ice greys on the rocks because they are rocks. They are not actual little things, and I wanted them to have a different tone to them. So I'm just going to bring in my ice grey, I think this is ice grey shades. I'm just going to add the darkest where I want the shade, and then blend out to the lighter shade. It is a very dark pen, this one. They do mellow out as they dry as well though, so they do go on darker than they actually end up looking in the end. So don't panic when you see it just look like a big black blob. It's not a big black blob. So bear with me while I colour these in. I would play some music for you here, but I don't know how to do that yet when I'm editing my videos, and I won't sing to you because that would just be cruel. So that's my colouring done, so I'm going to use the matching dies to cut those out, and then I'm going to use the sentiment from the axolotl stamp set, and I'm going to use my stamping platform just to get this all nicely lined up. I will be heat embossing this sentiment, so I'm going to get the sentiment lined up first, and I'm going to pop it to the left hand side on my little sand dune, because I decided that's where I wanted my sentiment on this one. I'm going to take a little bit of time getting it lined up. The Lotl is quite thin and narrow, so it takes a bit of effort to get it to stay nice the way I want it. And then need to use my anti-static bag. As I say, I'm going to be heat embossing this. This is completely dry, but where I've done any inking or where it could even have a tiniest bit of damp, the embossing powder would stick to it otherwise, and I don't obviously want that to happen. So I'm using black Versamark ink. So if I'm doing black embossing, I tend to use black ink and clear embossing powder, because black embossing powder is a lot less forgiving. And I didn't want to, at this stage, make a mess. So this is just a spare blank card that I had lurking around. So I've just been using that for my catching of embossing powders recently. So I'm just going to use my little spoon, and I'm going to spoon on some of the embossing powder, flick off the excess very carefully so I don't actually lock everything that I've just put on off, because I have done that before. Not my finest moment, I'm not going to lie. And then I'm going to get my heat gun, and I'm going to get that nice and hot first. The hotter you get it beforehand, the faster it will work and the less your cardstock will warp. I also tend to give it a quick blast on the back as well, because I find that helps counteract the warping. And as you can see, that gives me a lovely crisp image, and that ain't going nowhere. So I am going to, first of all, mount my background on. I've trimmed that down to 4 by 5.25. So it's just got an 1/8 of an inch border around each edge. And then I'm going to use some tape and some glue. So I use the tape to make sure it goes right to the edges without as much fear of it squirting out the side. And then I like to put a bit of glue in the middle as well, because that gives it a bit of extra stability, but it also gives me a teeny tiny bit of wiggle room if I don't get it perfectly lined up as I put it down. That little bit of wet glue just gives it that flexibility to move slightly that you don't necessarily get with the tape runner. And I am going to just use my bone folder and my random bit of card just to give it a bit of an extra press down and make sure that's nice and flat on there. Once that bit is on, I need to put my sand in. Again, this was trimmed down, and I've popped some double-sided foam on the back of that. This is the Scotch 3M foam tape on a roll. The roll is huge and it's really well priced. I got it off Amazon. Totally worth buying if you need some tape on a roll. It's just nice to have such a nice big piece to use. Now that is on there, I need to work out where I am positioning everything. I started with my axolotls because they were the bits that I kind of knew where I wanted to go. So I wanted one down on the bottom and I wanted one up the top. Because I'm going to have this one standing on the sand dune, I needed some foam behind the head where it's going to be against the actual background, and then I've just used wet glue where it's going to be stuck to the sand dune, because obviously it's 2 different levels, and if I didn't, the axolotl would be bong-eyed and it would be very weird. So then I'm gonna pop this one down just with some glue, because he's floating around in the background, just peeking in, you know, a little bit of selfie hopping in. It's like, hi, I'm here too. Yeah, I know I sound incredibly crazy today. I do apologise, guys. So this is just me. None of this has any glue on. I am just trying to work out roughly where I want all my bits of seaweed and where I want all my rocks. So you'll have to bear with me while I do my positioning. My basic gist was to try and get a nice mix and try and balance out both sides of the card. So just see me playing with all my nice little bits to fix this. I also have a question that I'm really hoping someone on here will be able to answer for me, because I'm wanting to create another playlist onto my YouTube with all my Valentine's videos, because as you've seen, I've already done a couple and I have quite a few more to do. However, I cannot for the life of me add another playlist, despite the fact that I know that you're meant to be able to have pretty much infinite playlists, and I've been on accounts that have loads of them, but it will not give me the option to add it. No way, no how. I have tried so many times and it's just not working. So if anyone has any inspiration or ideas, please leave me a little note down below. I would be eternally grateful. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue and a little bit, there will be some foam tape going on there as well, just to get all these positioned. But now I'm happy with my composition. Yes, I'm using big words, even on a Friday night. Check me out. So I'm going to just use a bit of glue to get those in position, and some foam tape for the bits that are going to be kind of going from the front of the card on top of the sand against the background, the same as I did with the axolotl, just so it's not bending or doubled up anywhere. So it's all nice and kind of one level. So everything's that's stuck down to one level, whether that's the front level or the back level, if that makes sense. I'm sure it'll make sense when you think about it. It makes sense in my head, but that doesn't necessarily mean what I'm saying makes sense. I am aiming to do quite a bit of crafting this weekend. which will mean that you lucky people will have quite a lot of videos to watch in the coming week, with a bit of luck. I have some more all new goodies that I'm going to play with, which I'm hoping you all like. I have lots of plans and I'm very excited about what I'm going to be making. There will be shaker cards, people. Yes, more shaker cards. So if you like those, keep your eyes peeled. I also have a collaboration coming up with some very lovely crafty friends of mine. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. That's coming up next month. So you've got a little while to wait for that. But that is pretty much everything stuck down now, I think. That little stone just wanted to make a run for it. So that's just me sticking him down with an acrylic block just to make sure he doesn't move just yet. If there is also anything that you guys would particularly like to see, if you could also leave me a little note of that. Obviously it's a new year and I want to share as much that you will all enjoy as is humanly possible. So if you do see anything, please, or if there's anything you want to see rather, please do let me know. I'd like to make my content as much about what you guys would like to see as possible. Just because obviously if you guys don't watch it, I'm kind of doing this for myself, so it'd be good to give you what you want, really. All about making everyone happy. And then this is the last little bit going down. Would you believe this section's actually double speed as well? So you can imagine it did take me quite a while to actually assemble this card because there was quite a lot of little elements. But I do love it. The axolotls make me happy in themselves. So that's always good. And then just the last rock to go on there. And then that is, oh no, there's 2 rocks to go there. So the last 2 rocks to go there. And then we are sorted. So yes, so that is everything positioned, composed and made into niceness. I really hope you guys like this card. I am absolutely in love with it. So please do check out for more coming up soon. If you enjoy my videos, please do like them, comment on them. I love reading any comments. And obviously, if you would subscribe, I'd be eternally grateful. Bye, guys.